We are watching Christian's Freestyle Above the Water, commentary by Coach Chris. We're going to let this run once on real time and take a look at what we can see. All right, not bad. Frame back so we can see. We're going to take a look over water with focusing mainly on his recovery. And he does a pretty classic bent arm recovery, not quite the straight arm recovery. You can see on this stroke, we get a really good view of it. He's getting that elbow up nice and high. One of the things Christian has to keep in mind is, you know, on these videos, a lot of the kids, especially the boys, tend to swim with better technique than I see on average during a practice. This is him focused and concentrating on his best stroke. Now this is a really solid stroke for him, but this isn't what I usually see every single day. I really like this recovery on this arm and this frame here. He gets the elbow up nice and high. You can see his armpits open up to the ceiling. That's really what I like to see with that high elbow recovery, especially with the bent arm freestyle. We don't want to swing around as we're swimming. We want to come up and over. We'll watch this. He's finishing actually fairly well. He could still push. You can see his elbows coming out bent. He can still push just a little bit further back towards the knee so that you're straightening the arm on the finish underwater at the end of the pull. We're going to push all the way through to a straight arm and then lift the arm out and start bending the elbow. So he's still got, judging from that bend in his arm and knowing the length of his arm, still got probably 3 inches of water we could push through to propel us forward. Now this arm's a little bit lower. You can see his armpits almost to the, almost out of the water, but it's still fairly buried. So again, I see this a lot with the younger kids. They favor a side. So here you can see he's getting up much higher on that right side. That's actually a really good recovery on that right side. You can see his armpits up towards the ceiling. Left side, see how we're coming around? And you can see the difference because how low his hand is to the water, how low his elbow is to the water. He's coming out and around on that left arm, whereas the right arm, he's coming back and over with that right elbow. So this path here, this sweeping path, we got to try and get rid of that and get the elbow and arm more up and over on that side. And right side's a little bit better, but we want a really high recovery. Here when he breathes to the left, he's actually better than when he doesn't breathe to the left, because now you can see his armpit and he's more on his side. That's pretty typical. When we breathe, we tend to over-rotate to the side we breathe. So when he's taking this breath stroke, that's more of what I want to see on his left side. You can see how high the elbow comes up and over as opposed to when he doesn't breathe, when it's swinging around. Right arm's still coming up fairly high on that. Okay, breath before the turn, we don't do that. That's just a no. And he's kind of taking that stroke a little bit close. I'd like him to finish that stroke going into the turn. Like he's taking this last stroke, which is completely unnecessary. If he doesn't take this breath, he can just pull through and go right into the flip. Instead, he's taking a breath and taking an extra arm stroke and getting fairly closer to the wall than he wants to be. You can see him twisting on the wall. We talk about this all the time, and we'll see it more underwater. Again, you can't add all this extra stuff to your flip turn. You flip, you land on your back, push off on your back. There's no twisting, turning, or rotating till after you leave the wall. You're just losing power and time by spending all that time spinning on the wall. Decent kick out for him. Streamline's a little weak on top though, but we'll see it better once we get underwater. Not a bad breakout. He's timing the breakout well. Right arm's coming out fairly high. I'd like to see it come out higher. So really what I'm seeing with Christian is, you know, there's few instances where he's getting his elbow up high enough on the recovery, but generally he tends to swing around his stroke, especially when he's not concentrating. What I'd like to see is him just try and focus more on getting that elbow on the right and left side, but particularly the left side, get it up higher. As he's swimming free, he wants to rotate enough onto his side as he's recovering so that his armpit is basically to the ceiling. So he wants to make sure he's getting a nice deep roll on both sides. By and large though, he's extending out over the water real nice, and he's reaching down and forward, but we're going to get a closer look at the underwater portion, and we can really break down his pull and his stroke. And then we can take a closer look at that turn and the streamline and the kick out. So let's move to underwater and see what's there.